Beautiful night to a beautiful morning. We all are here, arise and shine. Let's get to see what this Thursday has in store for us. It's good to have you. My name is Linda Alela and this is Morning Cafe right here on TV47. I ask that you be part of the program, and I say asante for choosing to wake up with us, and all the way to 10 a.m. I will be gracing this studio to make sure that I bring you the best of news, as well as just have conversations that are really important as pertaining to your understanding, on matters that affect us directly or indirectly. That then would mean that we'll be talking about the politics of the day. As always, it's mornings that, orchestrate an electioneering period, and therefore it is important that as a people, we have these conversations that revolve around the question of politics, and that's exactly what we'll be doing, and so much more. It's Thursday, and so Fitness Thursday will be coming your way. We need to keep fit, and so that is towards the last minutes of the program, where we'll be treating you to a gym session. But before it gets to that, I'll be engaging some gentlemen that are here, well-renowned politicians for that particular matter, as we unpack what is set for the Kenya Kwanza team as they present their manifesto today in Kasarani. They say they have traversed the different counties of this country to speak to the people, to hear their grievances, to hear their desires, what it is that they would wish for a government to do for them, and they have packed that in one document that they call their manifesto. Just what goes into the making of a manifesto? These are the questions that we'll be asking this morning, as well as trying to answer them, and so we welcome you to be part and parcel of it. Tell us, what do you expect of the manifesto as it gets to counter that of the One Kenya Azimio, and of course those ones that will be presented by the other presidential candidates. We have seen what Wajakoya has in store. We are looking forward to hear what David Mwaure has as they seek to get this mandate to run the government for the next 5 years after President Uhuru Kenyatta then exits on the 9th of August, where we get to cast that vote. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE. I'll be happy to hear from you as I get to sample these questions. 22047 is the SMS short code, and the numbers to call will be running on your screen. We indeed value your feedback, and therefore we wish to hear from you. So let's kickstart the broadcast by, first of all, taking a look at what the papers detail this morning. We have the Standard newspaper, we have the Daily Nation, as well as the People Daily, and then we also have the stories that have been worked on by my team that I'll be taking you through as pertaining to the world of news. And so we start off with what the papers detail this morning, and we briefly look at what the Standard newspaper has to say, as well as what then the People Daily. And we start off with this one: revealed President Uhuru Kenyatta's Dubai ports deal. This is an interesting revelation out here. Deputy President William Ruto, Kenya Kwanza Alliance exposes an offer to a Dubai firm that is by the government to develop, expand and operate components of Mombasa, Lamu and Kisumu ports, as well as the Naivasha container depot, terming it as a clandestine move to have over strategic national assets. A story captured on page 10, and that is inside Yetani's letter to Dubai firm. They say this is what lies therein. Deputy President DP World FZE offered the right to develop, operate, manage and expand transport logistics services in 4 Kenyan facilities. As well, in the March 30th letter, the firm was to submit detailed commercial proposals on Mombasa Port, redevelopment of the berths of 11 to 14 into modern multi-purpose terminals. The Mombasa Port still create a special economic zone to align with development of berths, that is 11 to 14. The Lamu Port operation, development and management of container terminal, still in the Lamu Port, a development of about 500 special economic zone, and as well as the Naivasha Port, develop cold chain logistics park and ICD to service central Kenya, and Kisumu Port, develop cold chain and logistics park to serve western Kenya, Uganda and Congo. Well, these ports that we're looking at, Mombasa, Lamu, Naivasha, Kisumu, would perhaps need to unpack and get to understand if the deal then is done proper, how important it would be in terms of making sure that it revives the activities of the nation and more so economically. But just what again goes into it is very, very important. Numerous deals that are of great importance to the country have been signed by the government and the various stakeholders. But for the longest of time, we continue questioning the legitimacy of these whole, activities. We're still awaiting to get that, agreement that is there between Kenya and China. That is as to the SGR. But then again, while it is a plus in terms of infrastructure in the nation, questions have lingered as to the genuineness of how this project was handled. And therefore, this again is another one that we would wish to unpack on this very time, where it's 39 days to the general election and President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to exit the stage. Will we get accountability of this? Will we understand what goes into it? The next government, how will they be able to take up the mantle so that we know that moving forward, then it will be a deal that is worth for the country. Out of bribery, how crooked officers operate. A story captured on page 12. We all have probably gone through this, moments where, yes, unaambiwa toa kitu kidogo, or you're actually the person who's asking for kitu kidogo so that you can, maybe bypass some of the roadblocks of life, or better yet, sometimes you could easily get something or a service, or maybe just get something, in a way that is not straight. And so this is there. They're just trying to unpack this and reminding us of some of the rogue activities that play out in our streets today. And the most unfortunate thing is that the forces or the police service is hugely at the heart of this. Ruto and Raila clash on manual voter registration, and here it is a conversation as they met the IEBC yesterday. The main propagandists in the Uhuru succession differ on whether to have a manual register as backup to the electronic one, the electronic voter identification mechanism that has been set by the IEBC. That is during a meeting with IEBC as captured on page 8. IEBC had mentioned earlier that they will focus on the digital aspect, and this would hugely help them make sure that they deter those ones that would wish to do unscrupulous ideas or, activities that would get the vote somehow compromised. We'll get to see whether then they will be lucky to probably, or that is the side of Azimio, which actually seeks to have, that physical voter registration right there. And we see whether the IEBC is going to make the necessary adjustments for this to be there. Inside the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, this is happening today, and so we'll be trying to look at the importance of a party setting up a manifesto, the processes that goes into, setting up a manifesto, and most importantly, what do we expect of this one, as we as well remind ourselves of what the Azimio and Kenya has presented to us. Deputy President William Ruto Alliance is today expected to roll out his 5-pillar and value addition blueprint to solidify the bottom-up economic model that he has promoted for the last 2 years. A story captured on page 6 of the Standard newspaper, and we'll be looking at it later on. What is on the Daily Nation this morning? Teachers ration food on high costs. Well, why your son or daughter could come home thinner this week. Well, a rally in the commodity prices has forced the teachers and the school administrators who are not allowed to raise fees in a bid to keep the cost of education low to start rationing the amount of food they serve their students and the pupils, while others have revised their menus. A story captured on the back page, that is on the education beat of the Daily Nation. This is quite unfortunate, and perhaps we might need to put our heads to understand how this can be addressed, because certainly you do not want your child to be suffering. And they say, when they go to school, when they're going to class on an empty stomach, it's on rare occasions that you'll find them have the stamina to, survive, have the stamina to as well study as expected. And IEBC bows to pressure on manual register. Here we go. An independent electoral and boundaries commission allows the use of the manual register of voters alongside the digital one after a meeting with presidential candidates, that is in Kiambu County. When Nyanza, a story captured on page 4. And therefore, this move then will be instrumental towards what plays out on the actual day of the vote. And we get to understand whether it will hold this, or maybe there are adjustments that could be made these very days that are left before we get to go out there and cast the vote. How murdered Kasarani 4 spent last days. One of the victims had just returned to the city after a trip to Diani, while 2 others scarcely spent time in their rented apartments. That is according to a probe that has been conducted by The Nation, a story captured on page 2 and 3. This is quite unfortunate. Still, investigations continue as to how these gentlemen lost their lives. Innocuously, of course, they were said to have involved themselves on this, cryptocurrency deals that were not legit, and therefore this investigation is continuing. We hope to get answers this for the sake of their families. And the remarking of Odinga, well, the Azimio flag bearer is the most senior politician in the year's general election, and indeed here has not been in doubt, but at 77 years he is also the oldest, and his opponents have used the age and health card to discredit his candidature or candidacy. And so we'll be looking at this just to get to see whether it is proper for them to just point fingers on the basis of that, even though the constitution then does not lock him for the race, as opposed to what you would see in other countries. There's always the question of age as well as the term limits that are there. And so the paper trail here, Uganda calls for probe into Sakaja papers as another court case haunts Wavinya, and Ugandan authorities want Team University to provide evidence that Nairobi governor aspirant, that is Johnson Sakaja, attended their school. This as captured on page 7, and this will definitely get to haunt him some more, but we get to see, knowing very well that the IBC finally cleared him. We say they do not have so much of grounds not to clear him. Cost of living, well, it's a relief as Treasury halves a tax on cooking gas. The Finance Act cuts a levy from about 16 to 8% on liquefied petroleum or liquefied petroleum gas a year after Parliament got to reinstate the higher tax that has, alongside a rally in commodity prices, seen the price of 13 kg gas cylinder rise by about 900 in 6 months. That's a story that is captured on page 11, as we also remember that the Ministry of Agriculture, as well sought to just get, subsidies, or better yet, get maize, import maize without, duty-free for that very matter, as well to cushion Kenyans on the high prices of unga. Well, this is according to what has been captured on this paper, that is the Daily Nation. Fit to rule, well, these are questions about the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his running mate, that is from the mountain, Honorable Martha Karua, and we'll be looking at all this as we get to understand the question of age and how important it is for us to probably not so much so focus on this. And so we shelve the papers for a moment to look at what has been captured. But then again, there's the People Daily, big battle for voter register. Well, this conversation is on as to what then plays out. A man under siege, one would want to call Chebukati that. And Chebukati bows to pressure, says IBC will print manual register, but it will only be used as a last resort. A group of civil society activists has gone to court seeking to compel IBC to print physical register. And now Chebukati said he will print it irrespective of the outcome of this very case. IBC boss also agrees to take agents to Greece, where ballot papers will be printed, and this is in addition to sharing information that will be loaded on electronic gadgets. This historic moment yesterday that will shape the events of this year's general election. We'll be looking at as we continue. NHIF set to sign deal with private hospitals, and Johnson & Johnson's agar. There you can see the faces of this. Just how instrumental will it be towards making sure that the question of health and affordable, for that matter, and universal coverage that is achieved in the country. Is a story captured on page 6. We'd love to understand some more on that. You can always grab your copy, but later on as well, we'll try to unpack the schools close, but only for a short while. Yes, we're having our students. There are students that are closing today. There are others that are closing tomorrow. And so we are keenly watching on this crowd crash program that has been occasioned by COVID-19, how parents are going to manage this, as well as the different schools for the benefit of our students. Ruto launches Manifesto today, a story captured on page 5, and the biggest story that we'll be focusing on this morning. Let's briefly look at what the roads detail this morning. Nothing much really. It's pretty much of an ease on the different parts of Nairobi. We always want to keenly focus on Nairobi, yes, the main city. And here you go. As always, from Thika Road, you would expect that there's not much of traffic down from this side of Githurai all the way from Thika. But to this level of Pangani, you will always find some tenets of traffic because you have vehicles coming from different spots of the country to find themselves into the city. And therefore, this one is normally expected. So right from Muthaiga, you always experience a bit of a delay as you get into the city, that is through Pangani. On this other side, the Juja Road as well, you would find traffic as the vehicles come from this other sides of Outer Ring and the other sides of Juja Road and down. So you find that there's tenets of traffic on the different parts of Juja Road, and so you definitely expect some delay. If you can take an alternative route, then it works for you. So somewhere around Juja Road, you would experience that delay, but it's not as bad as it's always this morning. And so here you are on this other side, Makadara, that is Jogoo Road. Again, you will find some tenets of traffic around this area. It's pretty much common, and so if you can take an alternative route, it works for you. So those ones that are taking Makadara, please, or those ones that are taking Jogoo Road, expect a bit of a snarl up, and going down to connect to the Landis Road and the likes of Lusaka, it does not look bad this morning. And on this other side, let's see whether there's another point. Oh, this is Mombasa Road. From this side of Imara Daima down, some tenets of traffic you find, but then it eases up going all the way to the capital center, a bit of traffic there, and away from the capital center and going up to these areas of Nyayo House or Nyayo National Stadium, a bit of traffic, but it's not looking all ugly. So taking that direction would not cost you as much as you'd expect on a normal day, that is while using Mombasa Road. And the Southern Bypass is clean. As always, the Southern Bypass will look good. In most cases, you don't find so much of traffic. And so from the Southern Bypass, you connect to these sides of Langata Road. And Langata Road doesn't look bad this morning. If you can see, not looking so bad. And so really no cause for alarm if taking that direction all the way. This is where it connects to the Southern Bypass, which is clean, and down to these sides of the Wilson Airport as you come to connect to the T-Mall, and getting to these sides of Bagathi Way, which is not looking bad amid the roadworks that are ongoing. It is pretty much of an ease. Nairobi Expressway on these sides of Kenya Railway Museum, some tenets of traffic that would get you a bit delayed there, but really not a problem. And Ngong Road as well this morning is clean. As you can see, this is Ngong Road, where you get some bit of, like where there is a roundabout is where you'd probably get some bit of a delay, but it doesn't look all bad. Tenets and spots of traffic on small areas that really probably could be occasioned by the activities of the road, but it doesn't look so bad this morning. These areas of Yaya Center all looking good down there as you get to the areas of Lavington and you get to the junction and down to James Gishuru as well as Gitanga Road. I'm just trying to mention these roads as I can clearly see there's really no cause for alarm. And down from James Gishuru to these sides of going to the areas of Westlands, not looking so bad. Areas of ABC and connecting to the Limuru Road as well. Around the areas of Gigiri, not looking bad this morning. Muthaiga Road is not bad this morning. And it's all good. And therefore, in case of anything, I'll be here to keep you up to tabs, as well as I would welcome, your submission as to what is happening around where you are, so that we are all updated. So let's shelve that and pick these stories prepared by my team. Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has moved Kasarani Police Boss Peter Mwanzo to Nakuru in changes in the police department following killings of women in Mwanga area. And Matiang'i met families of victims of the killings, promising to beef up security in the area. Chichi Josephine with that.
CS Matiang'i, who toured Mwanga area where 3 women were killed in the last 2 weeks, told human rights activists not to come up in arms with the police over an impending operation. The government says the police service is intensifying crackdown on confirmed gang in Nakuru.
We are going to engage these people and we will deploy unprecedented fire and force kwa hao watu, na mtu asije kunilecture mimi hapa kuniambia mambo ya human rights. Walikuwa wapi wakati wanaua watoto wetu?
There were changes in the police service, where Kasarani area police boss Peter Mwanzo has now been moved to Nakuru as the county commander, replacing Beatrice Kiraguri, who has now been moved back to Vigilance House.
Huyu ndio police commander wetu mpya wa hapa. Baada atakuwa na sisi hapa, tasimamia kazi mpya. Kwa sababu tunataka uwajibikaji na kazi ifanyike vizuri, kwa sababu hatuwezi kuishi kwa nchi ambao wakora wanatembea kwa miji mpaka mchana.
Nakuru police have recovered crude weapons, mobile phones, motorcycles suspected to have been used as means of transport in the area.
Mheshimiwa Waziri, nataka nikuhakikishie kuanzia dakika hii nikitafuta wale wako nyuma ya hii mauaji, hao wananchi hawatashuhudia mambo kama hiyo tena.
Governor Lee Kinyanjui said that the recent attacks had left the families traumatized, urging the government to take full control of the area.
Yetu tu ni kuomba serikali, because security is devolved. If there is a criminal or anybody among us who is making our people have sleepless nights, that person does not belong to us. Take full control.
Bahati, Member of Parliament Kimani Ngunjiri, openly denied allegations of being summoned over links with the Confirm gang, noting that he was asked to assist the DCI with the ongoing investigations.
To clarify, I'm not summoned by anybody myself. For what? But I'm involved to give the information which I know, but not being summoned. Kwa hiyo mkutano was not summoned by anybody.
It was a visit that has given residents in this area high hopes after CS Fred Matiang'i assured them of adequate security. Reporting for TV47 from Mawanga area in Nakuru County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
Counties have spent over 3.2 trillion shillings in the last 9 years of devolution. This according to the third edition of the county fact sheets launched by the Commission of Revenue on Revenue Allocation, and Garissa, Bungoma and Tharaka Nithi counties topped the list of counties that have grown in own source revenue, while Nairobi, Busia and Isiolo counties came last. And Rinkilemi with that.
The third edition of the county fact sheets launched Wednesday provided detailed county information on revenue and expenditure. Over the last 9 years of devolution, counties have utilized revenues totaling to 3.2 trillion shillings, which includes 2.5 trillion as equitable share, 142 billion as national government conditional grants, and 191 billion in loans and grants from development partners.
In the long term, we must be spending about 30% for development. And when we draw that line against the scatter diagram that we have there, you find that a number of counties have not achieved that percentage over the time.
Garissa, Bungoma and Tharaka Nithi are among counties that collected revenues from its own sources and were listed top in growth of own source revenues. The total amount of revenues collected by counties totaling to 271 billion shillings.
What are the health indicators looking like? How are governors doing in terms of building county infrastructure, notably the roads, the health facilities, the ECDs, and how do we see the indicators for the fully devolved functions? Nairobi, Busia and Isiolo counties collected the list in their own revenue sources. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa affirmed that devolution was working, adding that counties can achieve more if their leadership focuses on citizens' priorities.
We must start with those leaders at the ground to build this country upwards. I was joking with my good friend Senator Kangata here that he's a bottom-up guy, but the real bottom-up is devolution. If we can take over 3 trillion down to the bottom, and we have honest leaders called MCAs in our 1,450 wards, and we're able to give them money in every ward, we can build this country from the bottom upwards. We can turn our counties into engines of socio-economic transformation of our country. It can be done.
Three counties, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nyandarua and West Pokot, had the fastest economic growth, while Machakos, Mombasa and Kilifi had declined in their economic growth. 13 other counties, among them Homa Bay, Migori, Kirinyaga and Kajiado counties, recorded stagnated growth. Andrine Kilemi, TV 47.
Candidate Raila Odinga has said he will accept nothing short of a manual voter register as a complementary system to the electronic voter identification system in the forthcoming general election, or if this election then would be credible, free and fair. Odinga spoke on a day he differed with Deputy President William Ruto, who is firmly rooting for the electronic register to identify voters. TV47's Apollo Kamau reports on a day the country's four presidential candidates appeared before the IEBC with a list of demands.
A meeting of the four presidential candidates with IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati on the forthcoming general election exposed the fault lines between the two main presidential contenders, Kenya Kwanza's Deputy President William Ruto and Azimio's Raila Odinga, in their election wish list, which IEBC must comply with.
Fiscal register versus the digital register.
Odinga stated he will accept nothing short of a manual register to complement the electronic register, with Ruto pushing for the electronic system to identify voters in the 46,000 polling stations countrywide.
There has been notions that are not correct, that Kenya Kwanza wants a manual register. We do not want a manual register. If you give us sufficient safeguards that an electronic register will function without any chance of failure, then we are good.
No. We're saying it's either that or never. We will not accept anything different from that. Yes, we do electronic identification through the biometrics, but there should also be that manual register, which is crossed, so that you can also counter-check in order to know how many people actually voted in that polling station. That's why we are insisting on having the manual register also used as a backup.
Apart from Roots presidential candidate George Wajakoya, who raised no issue, Agano presidential candidate David Wahiga throwing his weight behind the electronic register.
And come to a ruling that all things put on the level plane, we'll make a ruling on the basis of the electronic. It's a way to go. It will be easier. It's more verifiable. But
though Ruto, Odinga and his running mate Mother Karua addressed the sitting separately, their allies and legal teams raised concerns on the two registers, with Azimio following Odinga's cue, while Kenya Kwanza flagged their concerns on the manual register.
Nobody is saying that you use printed registers. We are saying that system should be in place. The law requires you to have that system in place so that if anything should fail, it should be there.
What register is loaded in the KIMS kit? Because even if you printed that register and what is in the KIMS kit is what is in the physical register, nobody then needs to worry.
Both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are concerned about the transmission of results after the failed simulation exercise at the Bomas of Kenya. Azimio raised concerns on the status of the KIMS kits and whether the Commission will provide GPS coordinates in the 46,000 polling stations, whether the kits will have backup systems, whether the kits have a secure connection, and whether data has been geofenced. Azimio and Kenya Kwanza have also raised issues with a Greece-based company, Inform Lycos, contracted to print ballot papers at a cost of 3 billion shillings. IEBC will organize a tour with the candidates to oversee the printing of the ballot papers. Kenya Kwanza seeking guarantees from Chebukati that their agents will not be ejected from polling stations. Azimio, on the other hand, wants agents allowed to take pictures of Form 34As at the polling stations. Azimio further protested tribe imbalance in the hiring of county returning officers. Meanwhile, presidential candidate Jimmy Wanjigi will know whether his name will be on the ballot on Thursday when the court determines his case against IEBC. The High Court has also given a nod to a radical proposal of having presidential and gubernatorial running mates be printed on the ballot paper. It's still clear there are stark differences between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza heading into this election, leaving IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati in a catch-22 situation to create a fair playing ground. Apul Kamau, TV47 in Nairobi.
Well, historic moment for Deputy President William Ruto and all these other candidates as well. Another one today, Deputy President William Ruto has said he is now confident that the August 9 general election will be peaceful following his rival, that is Right Honorable Raila Odinga's sentiments that he will concede defeat if he loses in August. Ruto now maintains that he is happy the Kenyans can now be assured of their peacefulness after the election, asking other competitors to follow suit. Mike Agongo has that report.
The Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate DP William Ruto is now confident that the forthcoming general election will be peaceful. This after his competitor and Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga promised that he will concede defeat if he loses the August polls. Speaking during a Kenya Kwanza Economic Forum in Tharaka Nithi, the second command said as Kenyans go into the election to make their decisions, it was imperative for all leaders to assure them of their continuous tranquility after the process by accepting their will.
For the first time, I want to congratulate my competitor for accepting and for committing for the first time that he will respect the outcome of the election and he will concede when he loses the election.
During a Tuesday night interview with journalists, Odinga, who was with his running mate Martha Karua, stated that he will concede defeat if he loses.
I'm the sportsman between me and him. And I know that asiyokubali kushindwa sio mshindani. So I would easily accept defeat and congratulate the winner.
Ruto has in several instances asked Raila to declare his stand, claiming he has never accepted poll results despite being defeated.
I have done the same, and every candidate should do the same. I am now confident that we will have a peaceful election. And Kenyans will go to the polls, they will make their decision, and they will know that they will be safe.
Anakuja na kuambia nitakufanyia hii, nitakuwekea hospitali, ujui priority ni gani. Yale ambayo tumeyasikia leo ni ya muhimu.
Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, outgoing president, we will not give you a single vote from this place.
Later on, Ruto attended the launch of the Kiambu County Hustlers Fund in Kiambu County, where he said his administration will introduce last-mile internet should he win the August polls.
Vile tulitengeneza last mile ya stima, sasa tutafanya last mile ya internet. Tutatumia kila nyumba, kila soko, kila shule, mahali kuna stima ya grid, pia sasa tutaweka last mile, na tumefanya hesabu, tunahitaji karibu bilioni 38 kusukuma hiyo stima, kusukuma internet iende kila nyumba.
The DP said the project will be a model of Jubilee's last mile power connectivity project, which sought to connect all households to the national grid across the country, explaining that the availability of the internet will do away with the need for bundles for anyone who will need browsing services.
So biashara katika masoko yenu, kwa sababu sasa tuta deploy internet, simu utakuwa unapiga free of charge, simu haitakuwa inakatika kwa sababu sasa tutakuwa tumedeploy internet, na utakuwa unaweza na vijana wataweza kufanya biashara online, na tunaweza kuendesha biashara yetu kwa njia inayofaa.
Ruto is set to launch the Kenya Kwanza's Manifesto Thursday. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47.
Ya kuunda serikali ingine.
Azimio la Umoja running mate Martha Karua took the coalition's campaigns to Homa Bay County in the tour of Nyanza region. Karua, in her speech, terming Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the best bet for the country's top job, as Paul Kirobi reports.
Immediately, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya running mate Martha Karua completed her meeting with the IEBC. Karua toured Homa Bay County to rally the community behind Raila Odinga's fifth attempt to clinch the presidency. This as Azimio la Umoja coalition is planning to lock the votes from Nyanza region in 40 days to the polls. In the region, the coalition is pushing to edge out weaker candidates.
In the central Kenya, hakuna ODM candidate. Hakuna. Kama kunayo ni wachache na ni ya kusindikisha tu watu. Lower region, lower eastern, we have Wiper, no ODM. Baringo, Kanu, no ODM. Western hapa Bungoma, DAP, no ODM. Hata sisi tunasema hapa Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay and Migori ni yetu ODM.
Azimio running mate Martha Karua, speaking during the consultative forum with women, steered clear on why Odinga is the best candidate to succeed Uhuru Kenyatta, basing on Raila's track record and his international recognition.
Sababu amepata nafasi kwa serikali. Waonyeshe kijiji moja wamefanya kazi wakapata sifa. Raila's fame is not only in Kenya, it is in Africa and it's international. Leo hii, he is the advisor to African Union on infrastructure kwa sababu ya utendaji kazi wake. Sasa Kenya inahitaji mtu wa aina hiyo.
Meanwhile, as Odinga begins his tour in Nyanza region, a section of his team, including his wife Ida Odinga, stormed the western part of the country, campaigning in Kwisero area.
Watoto natoka kwa ile boma, wengine natoka kwa ile nyumba, wengine natoka kwa ile nyumba, lakini ni watoto wa baba moja. Hiyo ndiyo Azimio, si ndio? Hiyo ndiyo Azimio, si ndio? Kwa hivyo unaweza pata mtu kwa ODM.
Kura ya Mbaluya, kura ya Mbaluya, kura ya Mbaluya pahali popote yuko. Mjua ni kura ya kulinda mimi. Huyo mtu anaitwa Ruto, asitumiwe asipate serikali aja ninyo.
Mio kwenye afya tutakuwa tukienda hospitali hakuna malipo. Katika nyumba ya Azimio kutoka tarehe 9 baba akiingia kwenye State House hakuna kulipa shule kutoka primary, secondary na pia university hakuna malipo.
Wanaenda kuanguka ndio yeye aendelee kuwa seneta wa Bungoma. Kama angejua wanaenda kupita, Bwana alienda huko nini? Mimi nina hakika Raila Amolo Odinga ndiye atakuwa president wa nchi hii.
A tight race is expected in western region as the clock ticks in the run up to the August polls. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
All right, well, from that one of Azimio, I would have wished for us to carry this story of Kenya Kwanza and the manifesto that is being presented today because it forms the basis of our conversation. I hope my director can get it for us to run with it sometimes later. But then the gentlemen in studio, it's a delight to have them. Some, household names right here, but it's been a while since we had them. But I'm glad that they heed to the call and they are here for us to unpack the talks of politics. They have done it ably, and the fact that they understand it well is what gives me the confidence that, again, they will help us unpack what is there for us today in a better way. And so I'll have this honor of introducing the gentlemen that join us this morning for this very session of Morning Cafe as we get to a conversation. But we also have a new face, not new in totality. Perhaps this is someone that we all know. That is if you've been following up on the talks of investment as well as the talks of politics in the country. And therefore, it's an honor to have him join us this morning as we welcome him to the family of Morning Cafe. But importantly, as we unpack the talks of politics, as earlier mentioned, we are eagerly waiting to see what the Kenya Kwanza then will present to us as their manifesto whether there's going to be some difference in what the charters have read and what they have, presented to us on the campaign trails, or they will stick to that, just perhaps, well articulated in one document. And Bonke Omwai, political analyst, is with us this morning. Bonke, thank you so much for creating time to be with us. You're the new face on Morning Cafe, and it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Karibu sana, salimia watu ambao wanakuwatch kidogo tu.
Okay, good morning, fellow viewers. You're welcome. We are going to have a candid conversation this morning.
Indeed, looking forward to that. And Honorable Anthony Konya, Member of County Assembly of Kiambu Township. It's been a minute, Mhesh. How have you been?
It's been a minute, but we thank God. I always said that, time and chance are God given. So we thank God for the opportunity to be here this morning. And as Bonke says, we will take it up close and candid.
Right.
And we look at all those issues that we need to discuss this morning.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you. And yes, Eric Ragalu, Daktari, thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning. And the family of Yotha, I always task him to tell us what Yotha is all about. Unfortunately, we are told that the youth really have not registered as we would have expected. Yet Yotha has been out there trying to entice the youth into buying on the question of, first of all, registering as voters, and most importantly, seeking to get them, their support for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Plus or a minus for you?
Thank you so much. Viewers, good morning. It's another good day, and looking forward for a good discussion. I come from Young Turks for Handshake Alliance. That is Yotha, and this organization, like I said, it came about after the handshake between Uhuru and Raila. Youth came together, or rather Young Turks came together and started spreading peace, unity among ourselves. Then political time came, and we changed to Azimio Young Turks, where now we are pushing the Raila agenda in the Young Turks, and we are here campaigning and to ensure Raila become our president.
Have you, I would want to assume that in the process of campaigning, in the process of speaking peace, you must have been calling the youth to go out there and register as voters. Why is it that this is according to the report by IEBC, upon releasing the register out here, speaking of the numbers across the different parts of the countries, the groups that have been represented, they say 35 and above, has taken the largest chunk, as registered voters in comparison to the youth whom we probably expected as it was 5 years ago, better is that it was in 2017. They have exhibited some essence of apathy. And before you get to respond to that, it's an honor to have Mark Bichache, who will be joining us virtually in a bit. I am told that the systems are all ready for us to have him. But before he comes in, yes, you did not do well in terms of enticing the youth to get to go out there and register as voters?
I remember during the voter registration, per se, we went around, even in caravans, enticing and talking to youth to go out and vote. And many went to and picked their votes. And I think what you're talking in some section of area where people, or rather youth, felt disillusioned, and they didn't come out so well. This is areas of Mount Kenya, where I also come from, and my friend Ikonya. Youth felt disillusioned, and they really didn't do well in voter registration. However, the Young Turks part, where we are talking about between Young Turks is basically between 35 and 70 or 77. This guy is really, I would say, 90 or rather 85% of the older generation have already tasked themselves to assist this country move forward. What we need now is us, I would call ourselves parents, because we are old enough to talk to the young guys that it's very important. Having voted once or twice, basically you can call yourself a parent in voting, because you've given first president, second born president. So by the time you're going to the third born president or fourth born president, you basically know what we know. And we only need to tell these guys who have never voted or rather voted first and feel disillusioned that this thing is never emotional, because disillusionment is all about emotions.
Yeah.
And what we need to work on is what makes them feel disillusioned. And we've had Ikonya here. Last time we were talking about youth unemployment, education system. Disillusionment will come about the Sakaja story and Akina other guy's story, where you hear people are not going to school, but rather they can get papers, and here you have papers, you're not getting a job, but someone can get papers from elsewhere and still go for governor's seat. So these are the things that make you disillusioned. If things are put straight, then youth surely will work hard.
Okay.
If you hear someone wanasemanga unaenda hustle, ati nilipiga hustle hivi nikapata milioni. These are the guys earning 30-50,000, has a degree. Will never reach where you are. So those are the things that make youth very disillusioned, and that's why they ask, and this is a story in town, nachukua kura itanisaidia na? Na hata nichukua kura mi nitabaki tu hapa. So we need to really talk to ourselves. Then the voter registration and everything should be a 5-year process, where every day we sit here, we talk about the voter registration and change of our country, which we do, Linda. But now what we get is that when we go to parliament, basically both sides of parliament, do things work the way they tell us?
Wow.
We are talking about internet. They told us internet in Naivasha.
Wait until you realize that the DP says in his government it's going to be free calls and plenty of internet for us to swim in. We will get to that in a bit, but allow us to say jumbo to Mark Pichache, who joins us virtually from Karen. Mark, good morning. Mark? Well, such is technology. We'll be getting back to that. Mheshimiwa, I can see you almost want to say something to what it is, or to, to add on to the submission of what Eric says. I'm told Mark is there. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks for inviting me.
Karibu sana, thank you for creating time. We'll be coming to you in a bit, but yes, to you, Mheshimiwa, briefly on that.
I just wanted to address myself to the resolution that my brother is talking about. We were here and I shared a show with him, and we talked about the youth, and we pleaded with the youth to just come out and vote. But that resolution is occasioned by a few things. One is their frustrations in government, the way things have been led, and also when it comes to distribution of jobs. For example, and I will give a classic example to my brother here, that we are telling the youth to just come out and we give them opportunities, and yet my brother here is still insisting we need to vote for, I come from a culture where
that is one of the things that survive.
Yes, really. I come from a culture where the old live to the young. But we are not being persuaded to have the young leave to the old. So I think that some of the things, basic things that are making the youth not come.
Just how young is Moses Kuria, whom you subscribe to his ideologies? Just how young is young when we're talking about Deputy President William Ruto? And if we're talking about youth, we understand the bracket is ends at 35. So when we're talking about young,
I was just beginning. Okay.
I was saying, make it brief so that Bonki can as well come in.
The resolution comes in from, but let's be very honest. We have had governments that really frustrated the young people, and told them that tomorrow belongs to you. Ideally, if you look at the policies that many governments, including county governments and whatever you have employed in terms of the agenda for the youth, have really not worked. So there is nothing to entice them to come out and vote. I remember me and Nagaro really pleaded with them, but there is very little to show that will really entice them to just come out and vote. So what I'm saying is that we now need policies and manifestos that are really going to entice the youth in future, to feel part of government and to make sure that we bring them out to vote. Because it's not an issue of just voting. They want to see value for their vote.
Yes.
There have been dissolution, there are no jobs, they're tamacking, they're doing all those things. And as the Regano here said, at times there are also things that we do that don't resonate with the youth. We can't explain the process, and yet you have papers and all those things. I think it's really sad and something that really needs to be addressed. So to the young people, I can only tell them tomorrow is better than today.
Sure. Okay.
It could have happened, but we can promise them a better tomorrow.
All right. Here you go, and I'm glad that Mheshimiwa brings this conversation of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga when by default it finds its way on the papers this morning, and they speak of the question of age. The remarking of Odinga, the Azimio flag bearer, is the most senior politician in this year's general election. They question what are you trying to say? your position on this?
Yeah, thank you. What we need to appreciate is that we need the elderly in the society, because there's no way even you as an employer, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll need young graduates from the university, then you just elevate them to the managers. They can't run a system. Now, one thing that politicians must appreciate is that we cannot incite the young people against the elderly people. In any system, be it in the government or in the corporate world, you need some experience for you to achieve or to implement what needs to be done. Now, I'm not for this idea of a young person being too ambitious from the university, then the only thing you're thinking about is just to get into politics. Then when you're getting into politics, what are you going to do, or what experience do you have to serve, maybe as a member of parliament or as an MCA? Because you're just fresh from school, you have no experience, there's nothing you've seen. So we need to train our young people to get into employment system so that you acquire some level of knowledge and experience. So by the time you're making a decision to get into an elective seat, you have got some background. Then this narrative of Raila is old and whoever is young, look at the American system. In the United States of America, even the closest advisors of the president, they are senior former military officers. You cannot find a young person advising the head of state in the US. And if you look at the cabinet, there are people who are more than 50 years. Why? Because America is a system, is a superpower nation. There is no way they can impose people without no background, people without experience to run the system of the United States. And that should be replicated in Africa system of our politics. So as I conclude, I want to urge our young people that the future is bright. We need entrepreneurs. We need young people to get into the system of acquiring experience. But the narrative of bottom-up, whereby you believe that this person is wealthy because they tried to push my parents, that is not a narrative. When we wake up in the morning, we go to our offices to work for our families, and my child should not be nailed in future if I become successful, that my son is a dynasty, is a product of a dynasty. Because all these dynasties, they came from somewhere. They have got history. They've struggled in life for them to make for them to have what they have today. So this young people thing, I want to urge young Kenyans to get into employment. And again, the system of the government. Our government should come up with a system, to embrace these young people. So when you come from school, this is how you are getting into employment. And again, the government cannot employ everybody. That's why the entrepreneurs, they've been given, SMEs should be given a space so that they can also consume some of these young professionals. Okay, well, I'd love for Mark to respond to some of this that you present, valid points, interesting for that matter. And therefore, we'd probably take a short break and then come back and briefly unpack this that you have raised on the question of, young taxers should not look forward to, exit school and automatically get into the spaces of leadership, as well as, that aspect of us adapting what is happening with the superpowers and whether that is what Africa should be focused on. So let's take a short break and then come back, expound further on that.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent. I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap.
Welcome back to Morning Cafe. In studio, Bonke Omwai, as well as Anthony Konya and Eric Ragalo. Joining us virtually is Mark Pichacher. And Mark, I come to you on this very question of why we have experienced apathy, the youth have not come out to register as voters, but importantly on the question of age and how we are handling the systems of leadership in the country. In what Bonke submits, he says that first of all, we perhaps might need to have, to replicate what it is that the superpowers are doing in terms of their system of leadership, that embracing of the oldies, probably bring the same system to Africa. For the longest of time, we have perhaps done what the West has done, and in most cases there are people who've come out to say that we are not deriving solutions to the problems that bedevil us. We look to copy and paste, and in most cases this does not work in favor of us. Do you agree with him that what has worked for the West then would easily work for Africa in terms of the question of leadership as well? If we are to look at the question of age and how the young turks would want to come and get into the spaces of leadership without probably having to think of what they are getting themselves into. The same oldies that we have today, the likes of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, will tell you that they got to parliament at very tender ages, at very young ages. How different was it from today, that today then we say there are others that are pretty young, and we have seen the likes of Sakaja perhaps doing so well in as much as his is not an easy road today? Mark.
Young, because the fact of the matter is he was well above the age of 35 when he got into parliament. Remember, he was born before Kenya was independent. But the issue about whether young people or old people should lead is not supposed to go the way this conversation is headed. To say that someone cannot lead simply because they are old is a sort of segregation based on ageism, which is also wrong. You cannot say or disqualify a person because they're young or because they are old. I think old and young
a bit of a
of the matter.
All right, well, I think we're going to fix that and get to Mark, but perhaps to you, Eric, briefly. And I mean, this is obviously not the subject of discussion today, but then we cannot fail to discuss it now that it finds its way on the papers. And yes, to speak of this, I would want to play the devil's advocate and perhaps say that Mheshimiwa, in making his submission, did not in totality probably intend to say that, well, the oldies should be segregated. But I agree to some extent that we cannot be talking about the youth, yet we have minor commander nominated, as a youth representative. We cannot be talking about the interest of the youth, yet we have those ones that are at, say, 34, and so they are nominated to represent the youth, and before you know it, the third and the second year into this very reign, then they are no longer youth. So what are we telling them? That we are speaking about the interest of the youth, that we are trying to appeal the youth, but then again, we are putting those ones that are old to speak for them. Could they really be able to speak of what they would desire?
In the old social system, I remember that the young people would get education rather, let me say education, but not class education, that we go today to class and you're taught with a blackboard or a green board or whatever. The education was a natural education coming of age and time. And these people who are taking us through this system of education were older generation. I will call them older generation, but they are young tax. Okay? So they will tell you at this age, a lady, you're supposed to start preparing for marriage. So your mother will teach you how to wash kids, make food. That, again, to the boy was taught on how to go hunting and take care of the home. And this is what is supposed to be even in natural systems like where we are going now in the political system, where we don't shun away people because of their age. Because age comes with experience. Having been part of the system for a long time gives you a better impetus and knowledge about some things. I'll give you an example. We had a system that came the other day that they were saying, oh, the Raila group are very old guys, they are old system. Then the Ruto group was young system. So let's bring young people, computer age. What happened to the computer age today? The internet Ruto is talking about. He's the one who was in Naivasha telling them that every market in Kenya will be installed with internet. Every market. How many markets did he install with internet? So that is what I'm saying. Let's not look at people at age and say, this is older person, he doesn't know what he will do. Older system of Kibaki, I would give an example. Kibaki, when he came into government, he was around 73, 72. I don't remember very well, but I think 73. He was already at 70s. He came with stimulus package. This stimulus package employed many young people, let me not say the youth group now, into 2-year contract. After 2-year contract, permanent and pensionable. And economic stimulus package brought in so many changes. The older generation we have bypasses. The older generation we have brought the train that we are talking about today, the Lamu or whatever port, and many other changes we have right now actually are some of the systems that were left by the guys we are saying they were old. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is we don't shun away the older generation. What we can do is mix them. Let's have an MP who is old, fine. Let's have an MP who is young, fine. Let's have a minister who is even at 70, fine. Let's have a minister at 22, fine. as long as they have a mix of old generation and young generation, so that the old generation will also teach these other guys, this is how we move. Because you'll find at old generation, this person has been in the system for over 20 years. This guy is just starting. He doesn't know even how things are done. So I would say, let's not shun the age. Let's mix everybody. Me, I wouldn't tell my dad, atasa umezeeka enda nyumbani. Why? I still need him around so that he may teach me how he did it in Nairobi.
Okay.
Because my friend is saying some ages are not okay to be leadership.
As we close on that one.
Yes, wrap it up.
Yes.
I want to put this into perspective. Let me ask you, how old is old? Or how young is young? It is not a question of the number of years that a person has. Ideally, that's what we mean in this thing. The question is, for example, if you marry at 60, you're new in marriage. Right?
Right.
So you could be at 60, but you have no experience in that.
Okay.
So I'm talking about in terms of age in a particular field. And you see, we all agree here that we need to give our young people an opportunity, because that was what I was fighting for. So when you talk about age, it is not age in terms of years. It is age in terms of experience in a particular field, right? Because you can bring in a person who is 70, for example, and have just realized that his dream was to be a journalist. Does it mean that they'll be better than you? Not necessarily because of age. You see, so it's not an age in terms of number of years. It's age in terms of experience in that particular field. What we all agree, because I don't want us to take this further, it's that we need to give our young people
a chance,
an opportunity, and we also need to have our older people mentor these young people into what they need to be. All right, but don't deny someone an opportunity because they're young. Where do you get the experience? For example, when you get employment opportunities and you're like, you need 20 or 10 years experience, where do you get that experience? An opportunity has to be accorded to you. So let's accord our young people an opportunity.
And I agree. Yes. I have had conversations with people, not just in the country, those ones that are not Kenyans, and they keep saying that, they do not seem to understand why African leaders would want to lead for life, because then it would be an open space.
And also when technology is evolving, Linda, you realize when technology evolves and things have to be done in a faster way, in a digital way, who has the whim in terms of technology? It's young people. Right. So you need to give them an opportunity and not at the back. We also need to bring them to the forefront, so they can also lead from that point.
Well put. Mark, are you there?
Here?
Yes, Mark. Proceed.
One of the things that I was saying is that ageism is something that cannot be allowed in this country. The political narrative that because someone is of a certain age, they somehow disqualify themselves from running for office is completely unfair. And secondly, in any society, you need two sides of the spectrum. You need the old people who know how things work, and you need the young people who will innovate a new way for things to work. And it is this balance that actually moves society forward in a safe way. To be honest with you, when you get onto an aircraft, none of you wants to hear that, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain and this is my first flight as captain. It does not give you any measure of confidence. At the same time, you do not want to be in a safari rally car and the person tells you, I'm 80 years old and I have arthritis, and if I twist the wheel too hard, I will break my back. So there has to be a balance and leadership, by the way. Let's remember the old Swahili adage that what the young man needs to climb a tree to see, the old man can see while he is seated. So there is advantage to age. But also let us demystify the myth that our politicians are young. If our politicians today, like William Ruto, was to be a normal civil servant, he would be today staring at retirement because the age of 60 beckons. The same would be true of Martha Karua, for example. The same will be true of Rigathi Gachagua. When you see he was DO in Molo when in 1997, some of us had not even finished primary school. So there is no one here who is innocent of that tag of being old, because unless old starts only at the age Raila Odinga is, it is unfair to say that they are young. They can say they are younger, but they are not young because Youth is not measured by that matrix. But also, we need to understand that the biggest problem in this country, and if we want youth to get involved, it is not about youth getting voters' cards. I don't think that is the issue. It is about mentoring our youths. And what we failed as a country to do is we failed to mentor our youths. And if you want to see proof positive of that failed mentorship, look no further than one Sakaja Johnson, that even him preparing for himself to have a degree is not something that he has done. In the 10 odd years, he has been a sitting member of parliament, and even before that, he was a ranking member of political parties. In all that time, he did not prepare for the future he wanted, and that tells me that there is a gap. We need to create a situation where we are training our young people. We are working with them to make sure they are indeed the leaders of tomorrow. Leadership is not something you wake up into. It is something you're molded and crafted into.
All right, amazing. And I think there's no better way to unpack that when we close it. Yeah. We close this one, we agree. And yes, there's so much that is happening, the high cost of living, the question of politics that we seek to look at this morning, aside from the question of what played out, yesterday on, this meeting of IEBC and the presidential candidates. There's also that manifesto. And I think that's the main question that we'll be focusing on, perhaps just trying to imagine what would be presented to us, but equally enlightening the masses on the formation of manifestos and how important they are and what it takes to set up a proper manifesto that then will sell the agenda to the people proper. And again, the question of accountability. But before we get to that, the meeting of IEBC yesterday with the presidential candidates, the main bone of contention, perhaps one that many would have worked to agree to, is on this aspect of, just making sure that we have a register there. But even before it gets to this, because we want to speak politics, let's first of all touch this one. Teachers ration food on high cost of living. I think that is the question of high cost of living. And here we are. It is funny, as Eric would laugh, but it's heartbreaking, don't you think?
That's very. Yeah. I remember in 2017, when we were at Kasarani with the President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, the manifesto of Jubilee then, it was really focusing on food security. Yeah. And President Kenyatta spoke with a lot of passion. He was very passionate about agriculture and how to enhance the agriculture sector to protect Kenyans against hunger. And again, William Ruto really supported that. And that's why in 2017, they combine all these ideas and how to implement and how to move the country forward into 4 categories. And it was called the Big Four Agenda. So the Big Four Agenda was part of the 2013 Manifesto. So the 2013 Manifesto, according to Jubilee then, it was implemented partially. Okay. So President Uhuru Kenyatta was looking forward in his second term to finish part of the manifesto, because this manifesto was to run for 20 years. Now, I want to go back to Raila Odinga's manifesto, then I will conclude with the Jubilee and UDA. Yeah. Raila Odinga the other day unveiled his manifesto. We've looked at it. It has been improvised properly, but there is no way you can account Raila Odinga accountable for any failure in the government of Jubilee government, because honestly speaking, he's a raia. He's a politician who is in opposition but supporting the government. He's not fighting the government. If
we're to speak at a point of honesty, yes, you can confidently say that the way he, well, according to what it is that people would argue, that we have seen him and the handshake has brought good roads to Kisumu County, has brought greatness to Kisumu counties. The president has gone to the counties of Nyanza region, and perhaps they have seen the benefits of the handshake, that with the same vigor, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga could not help in addressing some of these matters that are crucial.
You know, our politics in Kenya is very tribal. And talking about Kisumu, Nyanza and Luo community, they've been marginalized for years politically. Right. And that's why there are some diseases which were being associated with the Luos. One is HIV, cholera, tuberculosis. those discriminative diseases. And Luos were, there's how they were marketed even to the diplomats, that these are violent people, you cannot do any development there. Uhuru Kenyatta is changing the narrative. Then why is this hurting some Kenyans?
Is it courtesy of the handshake, you think?
Yes, but if somebody is supporting you, I'm not talking as if I'm in Azimio, but I just want us to be sober and not emotional about it. If I am the president today and you are in opposition, then we come to an agreement that there is no need of my people to fight every Mondays to disturb businesses in this country. Then you have agreed to support my government. You may not agree with me 100%, but you've agreed to share ideas with me. I won't fight you. I'll also ask you, what do you want me to do in your area? So the fact that Raila supported President Uhuru Kenyatta, it was out of goodwill.
When the president says this, and Bunke, I'm sorry that I have to cut you short. When the president sits to say that, you know, huyu mzee amekuja na mmeona zile vitu nimefanya because of his health.
The truth of
how can you now say that?
The truth of the matter is this. Raila Odinga has offered his wisdom to President Uhuru. Raila has been there before Uhuru Kenyatta. Actually, William Ruto he has been in politics and more mature in politics than President Uhuru is now having experience because of being the president of the country. But William Ruto joined politics in 1992 actually, the YK, the KANU youth wing. And where was Uhuru Kenyatta? He was nowhere. Ruto was in parliament in 1997. Where was Uhuru Kenyatta? He was nowhere. In 2002, when Uhuru came into limelight, actually Ruto was guiding that we need to do this and this. So Raila has been there and he knows, he has seen regimes. So he's guiding Uhuru, you should not do, this is the mistake we did with Kibaki. You can do it differently. This is what Moi did. We can do it. And some of the things President Moi did is affecting Gideon up to today. This is what Moi did, and this is what your father did. This is what history is saying. So if Raila is offering his wisdom and knowledge and experience, why should you not take that? And that's why the president has complimented him. That what this mzee has advised me to do, it has worked for me. And truly speaking, look at the country. Security-wise, we are okay. Matiang'i is doing a good job. The only problem we have is the economy. But economy, you cannot blame it on handshake. Because they should explain to us the Jubilee. That is now the president and his co-principal, who is William Ruto.
Let's take this from you, and I don't know whether we are check when it comes to the question of security. Allow us to have Mark very fast, and then we come to you, gentlemen. Mark Bichachi, on this very matter, and especially looking at this story that is, that tops, on the headlines, that is on the Standard or the Daily Nation, that is as pertaining to the difficulties of cost of living and how this is also affecting our schools today.
Well, one of the things that we must be very clear about is that the cost of living is not a Kenyan problem. And we have this island mentality that we have towards the Kenyan economy that we really need to disabuse in the mind of the public. Kenya does not exist in an island. And in fact, when it comes to food security, Kenya has become a net importer of our food. Let us look at the cooking oil, for example. We do not have a single palm tree plantation in this country. All the palm oil you use to make oil is imported from outside the country. And therefore, if the Philippines, Indonesia, and different places from which we import these products are having supply chain issues, the price has gone up, you best believe that the prices will go up in Kenya. Kenya is yet to produce its own petrol and fuel, and therefore the international prices will affect the price at the pump. And these are just things that we need to explain to Kenyans, but that does not absolve any government, present or future, from trying to manage the cost of living. Now, the current government has created a subsidy which it's phasing out, the subsidy around petroleum, to sort of cushion the Kenyan public from the rising cost of fuel. But is there opportunity for them to do more? Yes, there is. I think one of the things that they need to do post-haste is to zero rate the cost of electric cars, because we are able and we have the capacity to produce solar energy here. We have have hydro electric power, you have geothermal power. Kenya needs to expand its power grid so that we are more energy efficient. That is something that governments can do. We can also then discuss the issue of food security. Is it time that we stopped this bike a plot, bike a quarter, an acre here, and begin to consolidate our land once again so that we can have large-scale agriculture in this country? These are the tough conversations that we need to have as a country. So it is not just about the political system that is there. It is also about the innovations that are possible. And if you look at the inawezekana agenda, what they call the Azimio Manifesto, you will look at it and you will see a lot of innovation around agriculture. They have talked about large-scale agriculture. They have talked about value addition within agriculture, and that's the direction that we need to go. But Kenyans need to understand that we are in hard times. Whether we like it or not, we are in hard times, and we cannot just blame government. We need to actually sit down and innovate and brace ourselves for the hard times that are there to come. I do not know why we want to lie to Kenyans that somehow a politician will come in and wave a wand and say this is what is going to happen. Now, I wish I could say what Kenya Kwanza has promised, but they've not come up with a manifesto yet concerning these particular issues. We wait to see what they will launch today, but Azimio has talked about it. It has given a basis for that.
Okay, well, interesting. And I mean, I don't know how we could have this conversation and convince the people on ground that yes, they cannot point fingers at the government, and perhaps just equate the same with what is happening in different other countries. I don't know whether Uganda could be facing the toughest of moments like we are in the country, and therefore we ask what are some of these that would be substitutes to what we have, so we could make it easier and better for the people of Kenya. And we come to that, but gentlemen, we have to take a quick break.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why niliweka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not to just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m. This is The Grind. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. T.S. Eliot.
So I decided, let me just take this up, put the teaching on hold first. Let me try see where this can go.
I mean, the opportunities are a lot.
But is that all you need? Oh wait, there's more. This seems a little too much. Let's slow it down.
You do this is something you do out of passion.
Join me, Violet Njoki, as I navigate through the maze of the increasingly dynamic business environment and quiet down the noises. As I help you flourish in business, every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent. I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability.
The soil inapanda magorofa. That is wrong. Right. So we should harness land, water, sunlight. Ile jua inawaka Ukambani Ile jua inawaka Mombasa Road mpaka Mombasa. Ile jua inawaka Garissa. What are we doing with it?
Well, interesting. Dr. Masanga says Uganda has Karamoja. Please remember that. But then again, they have made the best of Karamoja today.
Yes.
And seized all the troubles.
So what I'm also saying, before he comes in, because we are talking positive, what are we doing with those ngombes and mbuzis and kondors of our pastoralists? Tutaziona zikikufa njaa. So we need to harness some of these things tusaidiane kulisha Kenya. Because Kenya people should not be hungry because we have the dry part. If people should be dying of hunger, then we should not have people living in Morocco, in some parts of Sudan. We should not have people living in Niger because you're in Sahara Desert yote. Even Botswana here, where they have Kalahari Desert, we should not have people living in Egypt. If those people are living and selling machungwa, then Kenyans, and I'm sorry to use this word, sisi ni wajinga mahali.
All right, well, agriculture.
Yeah, I love the person Regaro is becoming. You know, when he when he tackled that issue, he did not bring in a political affiliation to it, and I think that's the way it should be.
But what we see today is this side of Kenya Kwanza pointing fingers. Where you sit?
Let me finish. I want to be very neutral on this one. Because where pants of hunger come, it does not isolate the Kenya Kwanza people or the Azimio people. Pants of hunger will haunt everyone. All right? So this is a problem that we need to address in the immediate and in the future. Okay? So Azimio side has put their manifesto in terms of food security, in terms of agriculture and all those things. Kenya Kwanza will be doing that today, which I believe will be better. What I'm simply telling you is that we have an immediate problem that we need to address. Because if you look at that headline, if you look at that, it talks about our sons and daughters. It does not isolate our sons and daughters to a particular, political side or anything. It is about us. Yesterday, I got my girls from school. I remember, come to think of it, I told my daughter Florence, I told her, who I didn't know it's
really?
It could be something else, fine. But let me tell you something. It is very bad hearing that they are, you'd rather have your kids at home and survive and try to struggle and have them a full portion as opposed to having had economical times that will have schools ration. So what we need to do, Linda, if you ask me, is to ask this government, because it's still in power. I am in that government as well. We need to ask our president to read from the front and everybody that is in government. Can we have subsidies? Can we cushion our people? Can we bring down this cost of living? Let's do whatever we can do to make sure that our people survive. Because you see, pants of hunger, you can talk about a future, you can talk about what we will do in the next 10 years. If you're hungry and you die, you will not see those 10 years. So we need to do an immediate address of this problem. And it's to question our people. We have a lot of projects that we are running as a country. We can help some of these things. Because hunger, if you die of hunger, you not go to a good road. You never see a good road. If you die of hunger, you not see, good infrastructure being put. So we need to look at ways of getting money somewhere in government and cushioning our people to make sure that we survive for tomorrow. All
right, as we close this in totality, Bonke, we could understand what is happening, in the global fraternity, and therefore understand that we're not special in any case. They say that if Kenya coughs, automatically Uganda will catch a flu, and the other side and the other side. But then again, do you read politics in this? Because while we would want to bury our heads in the sand, reality is that the cases are rampant on political season or in political seasons. Such cases are on the high when it comes to times where we're headed to a political season. Do you read politics in this, and what really plays out for such moments to appear?
Well, in 2013, I remember William Ruto promising Kenyans, and actually when Jubilee got into power in 2013, the 1 kg of unga was 98 shillings, 100 shillings. And William Ruto is on record, and he told Kenyans that when they get into power, they will reduce the price of unga to 60 shillings. As we speak, 1 kg of unga is 210 shillings. Then he's not talking about it, and President Uhuru Kenyatta is not talking about it.
Ruto has spoken about it. He said the government, he said it's the handshake, he said...
if you want to ask to bring politics, we will. But I pray in issues of food...
But it has been brought, and that's why I'm saying that we cannot say that he's not talking about
If it's politics, let's say when before the handshake, unga was at 90, after the handshake is at 210. If that's what you want us to play. But
proceed,
it's really
Bonke.
unfortunate. If we can free it, bring politics into this. You are not neutral. We've known your side.
Yes, I'm supporting Raila Odinga's candidate.
Of course.
That is
Good.
true.
Yeah.
And I'm very neutral and respectful to Ruto. I've not been abusive since I came. But I want them to respect my opinion and listen to what I'm saying. Then he can now interject.
Right.
What I was saying is that your question is political. That's why I'm bringing in the political aspect of it. And again, there is no way we can discuss development without politics because we are discussing politicians. So our leaders must be responsible for what we are going through. And our people, now our Kenyans, should stop being emotional, and they must observe emotional intelligence to judge their candidates. Because there is no way I can promise you something, then tomorrow I change my narrative and I'm still in that government. Truly speaking, we are paying the deputy president. His cars are being fueled by our taxes, the salary, house allowance, and everything. Then at the same time, he's saying that I'm not in government. It is Raila and President Uhuru. That's a big lie. Why should you run away when there are problems? And if our leaders can be responsible and they want to show leadership, they must take responsibility. That truly speaking, we failed as Jubilee. Our failure came from point A up to this point. This is where we got it wrong. Now what I'm going to do is not blaming Raila Odinga as an individual. I understand William is bitter with President Uhuru Kenyatta becoming close with Raila Odinga because they've called Raila a lot of names. They've called Raila sort of names, very discriminative. An elderly person like Raila Odinga, who is a grandfather, a husband, and a father. Now, our people must understand that what we are going through today is the decision we made of electing the so-called young people. We cannot be emotional when electing leaders. The decision that Kenyans must make on 9th of August is to be sober. Let us look what Ruto is offering and what Raila has offered. And you had cut me short when I was explaining the manifesto of Raila Odinga. The reason as to why Raila Odinga cannot be accountable for what is happening in Jubilee government is that he has not served in this government. He's advising the president from his house in Karen. And here is the president and his deputy. And the deputy and the president, they are not working together. He's a sitting member of county assembly. And I want to ask him, when was the last time Ruto went to his office at Arambe Annex? Yet we are paying him taxes. Ruto must be responsible for what is happening in Jubilee government. He has never attended that office. Even if a Kenyan wants to see the deputy president, he's not there. Ruto is operating from a tent in Karen and lying to us that Jubilee has failed because of Raila. That is hypocrisy. And Ruto, we are waiting for his manifesto today. We will analyze, and I'll accept your invitation. I will look at what Ruto is offering and what they offered 10 years back. Now we look at how is he going to implement it. Is it economically viable? And what is he going to do differently that he has not done as the core principle of Uhuru Kenyatta? Because in 2013, look at the cabinet of Jubilee, it was Kalenjins versus Kikuyu. This is the narrative that the president is killing. There is no way a country can be run by two communities. We have more than 40 tribes. And that's why we are saying, if my brother here is coming from Kiambu, and we can get a president like Wajakoya, or somebody from Turkana, that's the Kenya we want. We want a president who can unite the country. And you are not being judged because of where you come from, maybe because of your name or tribe or anything. You should be judged based on your capability, your capacity, and your competency.
Well put. All right. Before the IEBC, Mark Bichache, what goes into the formation of a manifesto? Just how important is it for a party to present a manifesto? And especially in this time and age where we know very well that we'll get the most beautiful of manifestos, but when it comes to the question of implementation, then we might as well say that it's a fox and a jackal, and these individuals will just come to bite us somehow.
You know, I am smiling because that is not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true because when we look at what Uhuru Kenyatta promised in terms of his big four.
Yeah.
And let me take the one I think which is the least performing. I take housing, for example. And it's least performing because, there's an issue in court concerning how it is funded. Not that it's not been done, that's not what I'm saying. And if you go in almost every major city in this country, there is a building in Nyeri, Nairobi, in Nakuru, that I have seen myself that is based on affordable housing. And so it is not for naught that these manifestos are written. Indeed, even the fund we make concerning the stadia that was supposed to be built, we know that there are at least 4 stadiums that have been done. We know that our main stadium, Nyaha Stadium, has been redone. We know we also have a new space in Uhuru Gardens as well. And I can go on and on.
Mark, if you'd allow me to speak for the people. Yes, and I agree with what it is that you say. But if you'd allow me to speak for the people, sometimes, and most of the times when these manifestos are presented, we are given timelines. We are told in this 5 years, this is what we'll achieve. In this 100 days, this is what we'll achieve. And therefore, I'd want to assume when people come out to say that perhaps these manifestos have not been achieved as expected, they have not been implemented, it's on the basis of we were given timelines, but you cannot just come and tell us that, well, we told you in 100 days we'll do this, but in this 100 days we've done 50. So we are asking for your mandate for you to allow us to finish what it is that we had started. Yet, initially you started by giving us timelines to this manifesto that you're presenting today.
Yeah, you see now, here's the thing about timelines and things like that. Those are things that depend on, for example, the parliament and what it's willing to do. It depends on the systems and red tape that government has to protect the citizenry. So it is not always that a promise can be delivered in the timeline that has been expected. But how important are manifestos? I think they're critical. They give you a very clear view of what the candidate holds important and what he is meant to do. And I think for as far as I'm concerned, citizens need to read the manifestos and they need to take them seriously because they give you a window of what these guys are thinking. Indeed, if the manifesto over promises does not give you an idea of how much is being promised, then I guarantee you that that person is also lying. So you don't just read the manifesto to buy what the promise is saying. It is also to see whether this person is willing to hoodwink you, is promising you pie in the sky. And even as UDA comes up with its manifesto today, I really ask myself whether they'll be able to keep the contradictory promises they have given, because they've given promises to everyone and said yes to everyone, and I wonder who they will say no to. Again, they are experimenting with a model called bottom-ups that has never been had before. See with their campaign infrastructure, they have not included very many mamambogas and very many hustlers. Now, will they in their manifesto bring in mamambogas and hustlers? Will they be a holy mamamboga manifesto? So these are the questions that we wait to see today. But also the other important thing about manifestos is who is making the promise. Mm-hmm. Is the person making the promise capable of keeping his promise? For example, if you have someone who is known to steal, they cannot promise to keep your treasury safe. You cannot put someone who is a land grabber in charge of the Ministry of Lands and expect that lands will be safe. Mm-hmm. So it's also a question of the character of the person who's promising. We look at the character of Martha Karua. When she promises, can she deliver? When Raila Odinga promises, can he deliver? When Rigathi Gachagua promises, can he deliver? And when William Ruto promises, can he deliver? But one promise I know Rigathi can definitely deliver on is the one that he made recently, that when he gets into power, he will unfreeze his accounts and he will buy a new house and people can go eat nyama. That I think Kenyans can take to the bank.
He will not. Oh, well, that one, okay, well, interesting. Mheshimiwa, that is Anthony Konya. Perhaps to speak or to act, on behalf of the Kenya Kwanza team, We still are questioning whether this is a Kenya Kwanza document or a UDA document. We are yet to understand. They speak of it, and it will be presented in Kasarani today, and so we'll be covering this event. They say it's a manifesto that comes from, accumulating. I mean, they have worked across the different parts of the country, the different counties, accumulated submissions from different people, different groups, and what it is that they would require, what is it that they would wish. From what Mark says, sometimes you want to listen to everybody and anybody, and you promise them that this is going to be delivered, that is going to be delivered, but question lies or lingers as to whether indeed it is possible for one to please everybody. We understand that even with the politics that or the general election, as we are headed there, we know that this will not please everybody. It will be a 50-50, a 30-70, a 40-60, whichever way. So when we see them smile and say, we have gone to 47 counties, we have spoken to different groups, we have seen them presenting the charters, that all this interest will be accommodated in this manifesto. Can we trust them to deliver?
No, thank you, Linda. It's quite clear this morning I'm alone, so
enjoy the space. Represent to the fullest.
I need my own fair space.
I've always been alone.
And you've managed.
Yeah. So let me say this. Kenya Kwanza is doing it today. Is not an UDA manifesto, is a Kenya Kwanza manifesto. And what brings this manifesto is the fact that we've gone to the entire country. And like the way William Ruto has done it hands-on, he has personally taken himself to over half of the counties, in person, and listened to the people, actually reasoning with them. So he reasoned with the problems that are on the ground. And like Raila Amolo Odinga, who entrusted the governor for Laikipia to draft a manifesto for him, it was even very hard for him to read.
You see, in introducing this manifesto, let me say this, in introducing this manifesto, the likes of Juliet, spoke. And he started by saying that this is a manifesto that comes from the people, because we have gone to different counties of this country. We have listened to the people. We have taken their grievances, and in one document.
When I talk about the people, remember the governor for Laikipia is also a person, he's among people.
But yes. He represents Laikipia.
But I'm saying,
not
did we actually see them go out and have talks with the people?
Must they do that in forms of campaigns or in form of what? Because remember, the campaign times were not there.
And give him an
Linda, you guys give me
let's allow. I'm allowing you. But you see, you
I'm
also
just
have to present
answering you.
facts,
It's your time. In Kiambu County, we had a sitting, with the people and leaders of Kiambu.
Where was it?
And we had a sitting, and we were talking of what is bedeviling Kiambu County.
Where was that
it came out as a document. Then our document, Kiambu, Nyeri, and other documents came back, became, we had two Mount Kenya. The Mount Kenya upper side of Meru and Mount Kenya this side. So we gave out a Mount Kenya document. It was actually a document from all other counties. Then you merge them to be a Mount Kenya document, which we gave out that this is our issues on the ground. Issues of youth, issue of healthcare, issue of everything was put. So all these documents,
my brother.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, there was a, you want to let them add, and then we come to you. Give you ample time to respond.
They'll give you. In fact,
I just want to remind them that before Azimio was registered as a coalition, the first county Raila went to was Nakuru, Mheshimiwa. He went to Nakuru, he sat with them, there was a Azimio meeting. Actually, people are like, what is the meaning of Azimio? So no one knew that Azimio was to be a collision. So it was a conversation based on the problems at the grassroots level. If you go to Turkana, we discussed the Turkana issue. So Azimio did that in all counties before it was registered. Now you can proceed.
All right.
I'm pleading with you, don't make this.
Enjoy the space, Moshibiwa. But you see, we have to present facts, and we also have to interject.
I'm telling you, tangibly, you've seen Ruto, personally taking himself into those meetings, virtually across.
And that's the reason why I asked you: is this a UDA manifesto or a Kenya Kwanza manifesto?
It's a Kenya Kwanza.
Is it?
Because when he takes Musalia Mudavadi, for example, with him, when he takes.
But you also need to understand that there's not going to be a candidate for Kenya Kwanza in the ballot papers and all that.
I know, but this is a collusion.
Okay.
This collusion. So basically, what will be presented today, I wanted to answer your question.
A collision of parties. All right.
It's not an UDA manifesto. It's a Kenya Kwanza manifesto.
Okay.
And all the
fair enough. Fair enough. We'll see.
And I'm saying this is an accumulative of meetings that we've witnessed across the country, and we've captured the we said Kenya Kwanza said we need to look at our manifesto in terms of counties, in terms of the individual needs of different counties, and that is why that is what occasioned, meetings in different counties. And I'm sure that...
How different would that be with devolution?
Devolution.
Now, the bottom up, what it is that they present in relation to devolution.
Yes. We discuss devolution in this place.
Yes.
Devolution is a bad thing, Devolution addresses the needs of the people down there, So basically, bottoms up and devolution coupled with the manifesto that we'll unveil today will be the best concept of this country. So what I'm simply saying is, we're looking forward to a day where we will bring what we've captured from the people, and we address the people's needs right from the Turkana to Mombasa to Kisumu, everywhere. All right. So give us space. Allow us to unveil our manifesto.
Okay.
Let's have this discussion after we do that. But we'll tell you what we bring in today is the best manifesto.
Are you privy
issues
to
of food security? I mean, we're looking at issues of technical institute when we talk about education. We're looking at issues of housing. We're looking at issues of corruption. We're looking at all those issues.
Okay,
and we will unveil, and then it's going to be a
Are you privy to what will be the content of this document?
I've just enumerated a few. I've told you we'll be addressing the issue of small and medium enterprises. We shall be looking at issues of housing. We shall be looking at issues of education. We shall be looking at issues of
we have been warned. You have been warned not to copy paste. I hope we are not going to see
I mean, look at us. Look at the people you have on board. I mean, we are not the people to copy paste. No, we're better than that. Of course, and you know that.
After this break, after this break, gentlemen. After this break.
The home of untold stories.
Can somebody put on the...
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent. I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business. Farming. Tasty Wednesday. Fitness Thursday. And Feel Good Friday. With amazing DJs, celebs.
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
And music bands. Every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us to control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger.
Of economic forums across the nation. It is the Kenya Kwanza Alliance that will be presenting its manifesto today, in the grounds of Kasarani, and we'll be having our very own political reporters on ground. Of course, a proper stream of the same for us to get updates on what the Kenya Kwanza team then presents to us in form of a manifesto. The gentlemen in studio, we have Bonke Omwai, as well as Anthony Konya, Eric Ragalo, and joining us virtually is Mark Bichache. We come to you briefly before we get Bonke to come in. We have seen your manifesto as Azimio, and perhaps this would revolve around the same problems that bedevil Kenya, and we understand. There's a question of graft. There's a question of, yes, the economy. How do we get that emancipation? There's so much about the question of agriculture that then would go down to the question of the economy, of course, security, of course, the question of leadership. I mean, this would probably be more or less the same that would be addressed in this very document: health, education, and all that. What are your expectations? Perhaps avoiding this question of saying that it will be more of a copy-paste.
Thank you so much, Linda. I want to tell you that most of these manifestos are usually headlined the same. Corruption, this is what I'll do. Education, this is what I'll do. The headline will always be education, corruption, food security, SME. All those are the headlines. Now the fact is the person getting in. So as much as you are going to do this, I would want to look at, I will call it UDA manifesto, because on the ballot will not have Kenya Kwanza president. It will be a UDA president. It's only us that will have Azimio president. Okay? So in the UDA manifesto, I want us to see what Mr. William Ruto will talk about in corruption, having known that there's one time he said we didn't lose 32 billion, but rather we lost 7 billion. So where did 7 billion go, which he was sure it was lost, and how was it lost? So I want us to look at his ethics. As he talks about corruption, I'm looking at Galana Kulalu, which went down. I'm looking at agriculture sector. I'm looking at fertilizer that came from somewhere Morocco that was not good. I'm looking at maize that came in a rocket speed to Mombasa in 3 days. When maize was in scarcity. I'm looking at aflatoxin maize that was fed to us, knowing that aflatoxin is a direct cause of cancer. So I'm looking, direct cause, and I'm talking as a medic, knowing that what aflatoxin does to our body. I'm looking at corruption that brings problem, where he is part of. I'm saying that because he is the deputy president of Kenya, and when these things were happening, he still is in the seat up to now. So how will he tell us he'll fight corruption when some of these things are happening or happened with him being there? Some of them him defending that we didn't lose 32 billion, rather 7, and he didn't tell us where 7 is, or rather ilirudishwa na nani kama ilirudishwa. We are looking at that. Secondly, we are looking at him telling us we are going to have airtime for free. Where we know very well he was in Naivasha, told us the way you are going to have internet in every market. And I can remember the video very well. Have we had internet in Kamarin? Do we have internet in Sugoi market? That is free, being used by everybody in Sugoi market. So I'm looking at that. And if that is happening, then he should tell us he's going to give us internet. I'm remembering the other day, his deputy hit Safaricom.
Right.
Major stakeholders in our country. Today he's saying he's going to make sure we have free calls and free SMS. So is he going to give subsidy to Safaricom to give us all those things for free? Or does he want to tell us he's going to finish Safaricom and all the employees in Safaricom are going to go where when he gives free internet? I'm waiting him to tell us that. I'm waiting him to tell us about education and what happened about laptop he promised our kids before he tells about education. Let him tell us that. So he will tell us about education, where on his side people are struggling to come out clear about the certificates they got. Why can't he clean his house in education issues before he comes to tell us the way his times of education, things will be better? His place is where we have documents not clear, people getting PhDs that we are not sure whether they were written by them or they were written by their own professor who
Fair
assessing
enough,
them.
Eric. And true to it, Bonke, while you present your manifesto, your promises to the people, they look at all these other things that lie around you, and they would want to equate, they would want to, you know, unpack these manifestos based on, you know, the things and based on your track record. How does the Deputy President, how does the Kenya Kwanza team get themselves off this hook that Eric speaks of?
The reason as to why William has taken time to unveil his manifesto because of he has a lot of pressure, because he knows very well that Kenyans on Twitter are waiting for him, and he knows what he promised when they were with Uhuru Kenyatta. And actually, the government of Jubilee, it was a partnership of 50-50 power sharing. And if you look at how the first cabinet of 2013, it was 50-50. Majority of cabinet secretaries were coming from Kalenjin and Kikuyu land. And few of them were like Honorable Matiang'i and some few. But 90% was equally shared between Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. So he has been a partner with authorities. And several times Ruto has reminded us that I am the second in command. I'm the deputy president. Sisi ndio tunakaa kwa mesa tukiamua hizi vitu. Now, before I come to your question, I want to...
Is it fair to say that the cabinet was Kalenjin Kikuyu, or just to say that, well, supported those ones that...
I would say on his side then there was no other tribe other than Kalenjin. Let's be honest.
Better yet, just say there were those ones that were, you know, his friends,
we are saying
and those ones that were friends of President
we are saying
Uhuru
on
Kenyatta.
Ruto's side there was no other tribe other than Kalenjin
I think
cabinet.
that is, we had the Chesas of today, we had the Chesas of today.
Kenya's intelligence.
Yes.
Let's not even
I think it's fair to say we had friends of Ruto and friends of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
So let's not even...
No, that is...
All right, proceed.
Okay, we can massage that, but the truth of
the
the
truth
matter,
remains.
I'm just telling you the truth. So now, before I answer your question, allow me to respond to Mheshimiwa.
Briefly.
Strategy that Raila has got a lot of experience in politics. And he moved to all counties to talk to people. And it was a vernacular conversation. He went to Cumberland and they were talking about their problems. Water was an issue in Cumberland. When they went to Coast, it was the issue of the land. Now that is how data was collected for the manifesto to be redesigned, because Raila considered his manifesto of 2017 and what are we presenting this time round. Now, he has not, the advantage Raila has, he has not been in power. He has never been the president. So he had confidence of telling Kenyans that if you give me this opportunity, this is what I'm going to do. Now, coming to UDA, remember, Azimio is the only registered coalition, but UDA is a verbal coalition.
Kenya Kwanza.
Kenya Kwanza. And William was very clear. He told us that his government, he cannot share it with anybody. His government is government. This thing of Nusumukate and bringing other political parties to contribute, that is not there. And that's why he's the candidate as UDA, and his co-principal is also UDA. So partners, the so-called partners like Moses Kuria Party and all these people, they don't have space. And I'm sure, and I can tell you with confidence, that even the manifesto he's unveiling today, it is an UDA narrative. I don't think somebody like Mutua has contributed into that manifesto.
Is it?
I don't think somebody like Moses Kuria has contributed in that manifesto. I don't think somebody
he sits
like...
in the party of Moses Kuria.
I don't think...
And again,
I don't think...
he's the chairman of Economic Forum.
I don't think Mudavadi has contributed into that manifesto. So if you look at how...
Uchumi Bora is incorporated, they say.
If you look at how Kenya Kwanza is doing their politics, it is all about them and how to share power and how to unlock their stuck money in their account, which is quite unfortunate. A co-principal who is intending to be the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, is telling us that if he becomes the president, his billions, which has been locked in the bank, he's going to unlock them. But all these things, they've been done constitutionally, according to the rule of law. In other words, we want to see, according to their manifesto, how they are going to protect the judiciary. Because what they are saying is that when they are up here, Ruto being the president and Rigathi being the deputy president, they will not listen to the judiciary. They cannot honor and respect the decision of the judiciary. So all these manifestos you are seeing and what William is now going to give us, I can assure you there is nothing different. And if you're talking about copy pasting, Kenya Kwanza is good at that. And I've seen how they are doing their politics. Yes, the reason as to why I'm saying that, anything Ruto wants to do, or since he started his campaigning, he has to wait for Raila to do it, to outsmart Raila Odinga.
At least we saw Rigathi Gachagua being presented.
No, there was a lot of pressure.
Okay.
There was a lot of pressure, and Mheshimiwa will tell you, MPs from Central Kenya had proposed Kindiki, professor, and they were very confident with him. Then Ruto made his decision that Rigathi is the guy, and that's why Kindiki left Ruto's residence without talking to anybody. He was very bitter, and even the parents were so hurt. Look at that.
But today is the one who appears to the
he has been, Kindiki cannot come back to Kenya Kwanza, and he has nowhere to go.
Okay.
So he's just trying to massage that ego. And William is telling them, you wait, I'm going to be the president. But the truth of the matter is this. Linda, there's a problem with Kenya Kwanza that we have to address. Truly speaking, I'm not saying that Raila is a saint, but Ruto has really lied to Kenyans, especially to Kikuyu community. That this Mutu wa Kitendawili, he's been doing this and this. His topic has been centered to attack Raila as an individual, but not addressing Kenyans' problems. Now, he has reduced Kenyans' problems to mkokoteni and wheelbarrow. Now, ask yourself, you are a journalist, a professional lady like you, I'm promising you a wheelbarrow after you ask, I mean,
you know that's just a symbol.
After I had promised you a computer
why are you justifying?
After I had promised you a computer and failed, now I'm giving you a wheelbarrow.
What I'm trying to say is this: whether it's a symbol of his narrative or political manifesto, but what does he portray? Poverty.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. I want you to have the last laugh, Mheshimiwa, on this because you are, under Kenya Kwanza. But then before we come to you, let's allow Mark as well make his submissions on this. Your expectations on this manifesto that will be presented today. Perhaps acting the devil's advocates, we say that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga has not had the chance to be, in power. The Deputy President is, of course, under the presidency of the Jubilee government today. But we also understand what the Constitution speaks of his duties. And therefore, in a huge way, his hands are tied in terms of anything that he could do in the country. Do you suppose it would be fair for us to give him grounds and trust him as he presents this to the people on basis of, well, he probably has not had a chance to do much?
Well, one of the things that we must be very clear about is that Raila Odinga is not in government. However, he's a good friend of Uhuru Kenyatta, and this is public knowledge. And that friendship has been used by UDA to posit the question that the second term of Uhuru Kenyatta has been a term of Raila and Uhuru, which in actual fact cannot be true because that's not how life works, that's not how government works. But in terms of pushing a political narrative, they have been able to put the Raila Odinga on the defensive, and he had to address it in the recent interview that he had. But at the same time, William Ruto is a tiger that does not change its stripes. And therefore, postulating what William Ruto will have in his manifesto is not difficult to do. This is what I mean. William Ruto is the guy who promises. That's his nature. If you look at his campaign in 2013, look at his campaign in 2017, and you look at his campaign now, he's focused on giving as many promises as possible. And therefore, when you look at his manifesto today, I am sure everybody will be looking at these different places he has gone to. How many promises has he made and how many promises can he actually keep? That is number one. Number two is how many fantastic, bombastic promises will he make? Because he's positioned himself as the maverick of this particular election. And of course, with Wajakoya backing down his heels, he will probably double down and give us more promises within his manifesto. And that is what we expect. Now, when at the end of the day, when all is said and done, a promise is only as good as the promiser. For example, if I promised you that I'll buy you a KFC, you can be sure I can afford that. But if I promised you a Lamborghini, you might have to give me 10, 15 years to give it to you. So one of the things that must happen, and what will happen today, is Kenyans will consider the characters of Rigathi and William Ruto and ask themselves, can these two characters deliver on what they're promising? I think, and I am sure, they will promise is guaranteed, but can we trust them to deliver is the questions Kenyans will have to ask themselves as it comes into this manifesto and digesting the manifesto. But the promises, my goodness, I think there will be promises made straight out of heaven, and the question is, will Kenyans trust them? Finally, on the issue of Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, I think Martha Karua brought a very interesting angle to the Raila Odinga campaign. What is the interesting angle? In that her entrance made the ticket. This is what I mean. That when she entered the campaign, it was clear to all and sundry that she is not a Jubilee candidate. She stands on her own 2 feet. And this ticket offers a fresh new lease of life to the political life of Raila Odinga and to the expectations of Kenyans within Azimio. Now, at the same time, Rigathi Gachagua, when he joined William Ruto, he brought in not fresh air, but confirmation as to who William Ruto is. The two are joined at the hip. They're almost twins in terms of how they think and act. And therefore, the question is, will Martha Karua add votes, or will Rigathi Gachagua add votes? Will Martha Karua reduce votes, or will Rigathi Gachagua reduce votes based on how he talks and how he acts? Those are really the questions that are going to matter. I do not think Kenyans will read the Kenya Kwanza manifesto with expectations of what to do. I think they will read it for having a lot of razzmatazz, but at the end of the day, the question is, will Rigathi and Ruto have the capacity to tame themselves and actually deliver what the people want, or will it be about mchele and nyama at State House?
Well, interesting. Mheshimiwa, it will be about the manifesto, what is incorporated therein, the characters of these people that are presenting this manifesto, their track record, what they intend to do, the promises that they give to the people, what they have promised before. It will all be about that. Do you trust these two gentlemen to confidently steer the country towards their achieving what it is that is incorporated in their manifesto?
I want to be very brief, but it's been a very unfair show to me. We have had three gentlemen on one side and not been accorded a fair share.
If what you present is true, then I think it will always stand.
Let me now get to it.
Yes.
Let me now get to it. If we talk about character, I will look at Raila Amolo Odinga, who tried a coup here in this country in 1982. I'm looking at the former Prime Minister, and you cannot divorce Raila from government. You cannot pride in him when things are done right and then divorce him when things are done wrong. He's an ally of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and we know we would want to pretend that this is not true, but the truth is, this is a man in government and calling shots in government in terms of the way he trans, in terms of the way things are done. And that's a fact that you can't hide away from. So basically,
Mheshimiwa, let me ask this, and I'm sorry that I'm asking this. Just allow me to ask this, because you have castigated the handshake for the longest of time. Perhaps, if your boss or your preferred presidential candidate at some point, agreed to what President Uhuru Kenyatta presented in terms of the handshake, and maybe agreed to work with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga under the Jubilee government in whatever form, do you suppose that things would have been different today? Because yes, there's been this resentment and all that, but we have not seen anything much in terms of development, in terms of helping Kenyans that has come out of this.
The reason why you match up and you want to form a government is because you want, and you go to Kenyans and ask them for a vote, is that you can independently run that government, okay? That is why we compete. There's always a losing side and a winning side, you see? So in as much as, and I've told you, the rule of law here must apply. We cannot have events where people lose elections, get to the street as a way of calling their way into government. I've told you the most peaceful countries in this country. You know, this world, we've always wanted to assume that the handshake brought about peace. The countries that have peace in this world did not do handshakes. It was the rule of law, and that must be respected. And I've always told you that. Let's get to the real issues here. Let's get to the manifesto. Today, or rather, let me get to the character. We're talking about a person who's been in government as a prime minister. We're talking about when he was a prime minister, real scandals happened within government. And we now want to divorce him from those things, and we want to sanctify him like he has never been government. He has been government, he's been the prime minister, he has, he was, I am telling you even right now, most of the key people mentioned in KEMSA are people from his side.
Can we have my question answered, Mheshimiwa? Yes. This is my question. With the question of character, track record, what the DP has done in government and what they have not done, would you trust him to deliver? Let's overlook the persona of
obviously,
the Prime Minister.
I will. In fact, if you look at the two candidates, the person who trust to deliver the promise will be
Remember, we have 4 candidates.
Ruto.
Yes.
Forget about the Jacoyas and all of you. They will. We will not discuss them here. We're talking about Raila versus. I am in Kenya Kwanza. Okay. And I wanted to mainly go down to the issue of the manifesto and tell you, for example, this is what I wanted to follow. This is not a UDA thing. It's a Kenya Kwanza thing. Let me, for example, talk about Moses Kuria, who is going to be the next governor for Kiambu. He has been the leader of these economic forums. He has been involved in what we presented today. Okay? So this assumption and this narrative that is being peddled by my brothers here, Bonki, the last time I heard about Bonki was Reinhard Bonki, who was a preacher. So
not Reinhard Bonki. Okay, well, right ahead.
No, that's on a light note.
On a lighter note, well, we needed that. We needed that. Yes.
So basically, what I'm simply telling you, this is a Kenya Kwanza thing. Okay, so what we're going to unveil today and to unpack it today has had contribution from Musalia Mudavadi, has had contribution from virtually every principal and every party that is in Kenya Kwanza. And let me tell you something. This is not a verbal thing. This Kenya Kwanza is a formal coalition where agreements have been signed. So the assumption of if this is a UDA thing, I mean, but the beauty of it, I need not to castigate that really much because Kenyans are intelligent nowadays and they know what is the truth and what is not the truth. Yeah. But today is a big day for Kenya. And I'm telling Kenyans to wait for this day with a lot of eagerness because the next 10 years is dependent on what will be unveiled today. And I'll tell you, we are forming government. In 40 days, we'll be there. And William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua and everybody who is in Kenya Kwanza will form and deliver to Kenyans.
All right.
Because they've done it before and they'll do it.
Well, Besi Munga is saying that he maneno tumezoea sana, a lot of promises. Perhaps there's really nothing much that is going to happen. It's all.
I also wanted to address my brother who talked about timelines. And you actually the one who asked that question in terms of your timelines, in terms of delivering. You know, every person anticipates, you know, every person, actually virtually all of us, and Dagaro will agree with me, even us, as a person, you have a manifesto. There are things that you want to do within these couple of years. But you see, the other factors that play out. Like, for example, if you look at the Jubilee government and things that they promised Kenyans, who knew that COVID would come? Who knew would how things? Okay. Who knew that in terms of getting all sorts of revenue was going to be difficult because most of the businesses will be closed? You know, so there's so many factors that play out. We only anticipate to do those things within this period of time. So you really can't come crashing down on someone because they never did it within that period. There are so many factors that play out. Like what my brother said, you know, we have parliament, it has its own processes, you know. At times there are disagreements in parliament, they're not able to pass this bill within this time, and probably that's what you need to implement your agenda. So and I'm saying this for all coalitions, you know, you may fail out on timelines based on factors that you're not able to control.
Right. Yes. So much feedback. Emmanuel Manu Vat says, mimi nauliza Wakenya wenzangu, amuoni hizi promises zimekuwa too mingi sana. Next tutaambiwa tutaenda ugaibuni bure. We cannot be able to do this.
End this show.
We are not ending. We are giving you parting shots.
And my brother here, having not talked about Kiambu.
All right. Parting shots. All right.
Thank you so much. Now, I just want to remind Mheshimiwa that it is true when Raila was the Prime Minister, there was a serious corruption issue. And in the office of the Prime Minister, there was a minister who stole maize. And this minister is none other than William Somei Ruto. And Raila sacked him. Raila sacked him because of corruption. And there was maize scandal. that
has he been
tainted.
convicted?
That's the question.
What jail did he
Yes,
attend?
I'm answering.
You know, let's stop this.
Let him answer.
Allow me to.
Was he convicted?
Allow me to.
The person you're telling us.
Allow me
did
to
he
finish.
prosecute William Ruto?
Allow me. Raila is not a judge. That question we can write to judiciary and ask them why Ruto has not been prosecuted. But there was an issue. Allow me, Mheshimiwa, you know.
No, you know, we have to be factual.
Well, questions that
I'm answering.
Yes, let him answer.
He's not allowing me to
because
answer.
there's no time, let him answer briefly.
Allow me to answer. What I'm saying, in the coalition government of Raila and Kibaki, Raila sacked one of his cabinet secretaries. And this is none other than William Somei Ruto because of the maize scandal. So this thing started those days. And when Raila was asked, he said, I sacked William Ruto because of corruption. And that is now the government now, the judiciary to tell us. And the investigative institutions.
Was he taken to court in the first place?
That's why I'm saying we can.
Don't answer that question.
Well, Mheshimiwa, let's be
answering,
fair enough, yes.
I'm answering by saying we can ask them why and how far they went with that issue.
Yeah.
As I conclude, I want to tell Kenyans that this is our country. And we must appreciate what President Uhuru Kenyatta has done. And I want to wish President Uhuru Kenyatta a peaceful retirement period. And what he has done for this country by bringing peace and changing the narrative for certain tribes, we will remember him for that.
All right.
And the history will judge him fairly. What he has done to Kenyans is quite respectful. And the next government, because I can imagine, let's say if William Ruto maybe he becomes the president.
I'll just sum it up.
It's a question of when he becomes the president.
Maybe if he becomes the president and Rigathi Gachagua, I can assure you we will not have a country. And I want to advise these older people. If William is confident enough and he wants us to believe in him, he has to accept for you, the media, to interview him together with Raila Odinga. But if he cannot,
presidential debate.
Yes, but if he cannot attend the presidential debate, let him release Rigathi Gachagua and Azimio to release Martha Karua, so that they can share with us.
2017 President Uhuru Kenyatta did not attend.
That's why you're saying.
And you're the same. It's the same president that you're celebrating right now.
No, yeah, we are in 2022. But why should they decline? Or William Ruto decline attending the presidential debate. We want to listen to William Ruto.
We're totally out of time, gentlemen.
As I conclude,
so
we want
to have to close. We have to close. Mark Bichache first, then we'll come to you.
Okay.
Mark, briefly, as we close.
You know, one of the jobs that we must do is be honest with the truth as far as Kenyans are concerned.
Right.
And the fact is that all of these politicians have a track record. Martha Karua has a track record. We know where she was in 1992. We know how she quit being a magistrate to fight for the second liberation for multi-party. We know Rigathi Gachagua was working as an operative of the regime. We know Rigathi Gachagua was a DO in Molo, where he's accused of supervising certain clashes. We know for a fact that William Ruto was in YK 92. We know for a fact that Weston Hotel is an issue that is a blight on his character. We know that Raila Odinga had to flee this country. We know about the 1982 coup. We know where he was in 1992, and we know where he was in 1997. So this is not a matter of conjecture or debate. Kenyans must realize and understand that none of these politicians is fresh. They come with baggage. Now, your question is to ask yourself, which baggage can this country carry? Can this country survive under Raila Odinga and Martha Karua? Can they continue running this country correctly, given what they have done with power before? Or can this country contain the character and the presence and the kind of attitude that Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto have? In fact, the question we need to ask ourselves is the desires of one Rigathi Gachagua commiserate with the desires of the people of Kenya, that people whose assets have been frozen should be released so that they can buy houses and give us food? That is really the question. So do we want what Martha Karua wants, or do we want what Rigathi Gachagua wants? That is really the question we've got to ask ourselves, and they say it to us all the time, and I think it's about time we believed in what they say And that is exactly what they're going to do.
Okay, well, interesting. Eric.
I want to talk to Kenyans, and specifically also I want to talk to people in Kiambu County. I want us to look at Raila Odinga and I want us to look at William Ruto, the two people presidential candidates that we know. Like my brother has said, they have a track record. It's for you to interrogate and be open in your mind, not one-sided, and interrogate who is the best person to take care of our country. We know what they have done, we know where they stand for, and we know what they have done in socio-political issues. Again, I want us to remember, and I want to request people in Kiambu County, remember to vote Azimio as a presidential and our governor, who is Dr. Nyoro. Why would I say that? In 2 years, you've seen what has happened. We have cabros in Ruiru parking. We have so many things that have been done that are positive. We have Morera bridges that have been, and many other things that have been done, which were never been done by other governments that were there. And and that is the Azimio candidate we have there. And since I'm an Azimio man, it's good and proper to us vote for him. And remember, we have a manifesto to protect, and Azimio Kiambu economic platform to protect. And if you give us a lineup of Azimio, we'll be able to work it out. If you give us a UDA in the middle, wataenda kutupinga na vitu hazitafanyika. Then after 5 years, utasema baba hajafanya.
Fair enough. I think we can close it at that. We can close it at that, gentlemen. I thought you said you're in a rush, Mheshimiwa.
Yes, but I want to tell my brother here, when he talks about Kabru in Ruiru, I'm better placed to tell him where the Kabru has come from. That AKUS program, that has got nothing to do with the governor. It has everything to do with the area member of the county assembly, and of course the assembly. Remember, the AKUS project was started way before Nyoro became the governor, was the deputy governor then. So you can't attribute that to him. So, it's just correcting you. But I want to say this: Kiambu is ready for change, and the change is coming. And the change is with the man who has been entrusted with getting all the counties, their manifestos, and bringing them to one. If he can do it for Kenya, he can do it for Kiambu. That is the man, Moses Kuria, with Chamba Gatakazi. And in Kenya Kwanza, our presidential candidate is William Samoei Ruto.
We have not talked about the confusion you've brought in Kenya Kwanza, by the way. I wish we had time to do that.
Let me finish. William Samoei Ruto is our presidential candidate. And I will tell you this for a fact, he has a track record against a man.
You confirmed today that Chama Chakazi is part and parcel of Kenya.
Of course.
You saw us
in Karen yesterday launching the Kiambu Hustlers Fund. You know, we've started.
We have to close.
We've rolling this thing. So we have a presidential candidate with a track record against a person who have tried a coup, a person who have tried swearing himself in, against a person who have brought all sorts of troubles and shenanigans in this
Let's
country.
go back to our history and read a bit of that. Thank you so much, Honorable Anthony Ikonya, Member of County Assembly of Kiambu Township, as well as Bonke Omwai, political analyst. We've also had communication that is advisor and strategist, Mark Bichache, joining us virtually. And lastly, we have Dr. Eric Ragalo right here. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to us. We look forward to another moment where we'll unpack the manifesto and compare it to the other manifestos that have been presented to us. We take a short break.